I want you to think about a time of your life of great change. Tragedy, loss, disappointment that was life-changing. On November 10, 1997, my life drastically changed when my husband of 34 years died of cancer. My sorrow was deeply painful. It was 3 years before I was ready to transform the family room known as the den. My husband was a university professor, and our den had many of his books and files. I decided to remove everything in the room that reminded me of the way life had been. The den was brown, and as you can see, brown is not my favorite color. Over the next year, I created a room with colors that I like: orange, green, and yellow. Colors I am wearing today. Upon completion, I could no longer call the room the den, so I named it My Happy Room. Creativity and color transformed this room, and the process was life-giving. It enabled me to go from darkness to light. 2 years later, a woman from Kenya was visiting to raise money for a water well for a widow's village. These women had a very difficult life, and they were very sad, and they had to walk long distances to collect water. I invited her to my home, and she really enjoyed being in the happy room. After she returned to Kenya, I received an email from her stating, "I have shown all of the photos of your happy room to all the widows. They all laughed and smiled." That night, I could not sleep. The very sad widows laughed and smiled. Wow, I understood. That night, I knew when I retired from the small university where I was working, I would be creating happy rooms around the world. I had no idea when, where, or how. That would be a joyful surprise. In 2008, after I retired, one of my former students was teaching at a school in southern India, and she invited me to visit. When I arrived, the beautiful children greeted me with beautiful smiles, and they were thrilled when I visited their classrooms. Early one morning, when the crowing rooster woke me up, I knew that we had to change the hall. The hall was a place where the students ate and studied, and it was very, very bleak. The principal, teachers, and some students enthusiastically showed up to help. Exuberant laughter was contagious. In 2 nights and 1 day, the walls exploded with saffron yellow, blue, pink, with minarets painted above the windows, creating this happy room for children who were low caste and poor. Help them understand they were beautiful and valued. And India gave my dream the reality that happy rooms around the world could indeed materialize. Since then, I have directed over 30 projects in 10 more countries. Very often, I have no idea what I'll be doing until I arrive on location. At an elementary school in a hot, humid town in Guatemala, 2 university students and myself were more than surprised when we thought we'll be doing 2 classrooms, maybe 3. But no, they were expecting all 9 classrooms to be painted. I was lost in translation. The district director of education had given permission for the school to be painted and allowed it to be closed for 3 days. 9 classrooms, 3 days, Yes, overwhelming to say the least. Find sufficient quality paints, direct novice painters, and cope with the heat and humidity. And both my student artists, who were also my translators, became ill. But I do know that unbelievable things happen with happy rooms. Community people, teachers, and students were willing, eager, and enthusiastic, and in 3 days, all 9 classrooms and the huge auditorium and the facade were all painted. This school became a beacon of hope and beauty in that poor neighborhood. And upon completion, there was a grand celebration with Guatemalan music and dancing. And yes, at the end, I still had enough energy to get up and dance. Joyful surprises are always abundant. At a high school in the Solomon Islands in the South Pacific, I marveled at the students' artistic talent. They could really draw, and they quickly learned to paint. Creativity blossomed. I would often say to them, "Wow, this is so gorgeous." And before I knew it, they created songs and danced. "Oh, it is gorgeous. Oh, it is beautiful. Oh, it is amazing. It is spectacular." They really had a lot of fun. My name, Iris, means rainbow. So rainbows are a common theme in all the happy rooms. And they don't always take the traditional shape of a rainbow. At this school, rainbows appeared in the tail of a rooster and the trunks of coconut trees and a wall of beautiful rainbow colors from Australian students who were volunteering, high school students. Beautiful, colorful murals became a wonder in that poor community. For 2 years, a prison chaplain in Moldova dreamed that someone would come and paint the wall of a prison. The courtyard surrounded the women's prison, a place where the women were who had children. Can you imagine? Moldova, bordering on Romania, is one of Europe's poorest countries. With a guard always watching, 5 artistic male prisoners, some local students, and 2 friends, the walls came to life with vibrant color, with art, and as always, smiles and laughter from the artists and all those watching. The imposing director of this large prison stated, "In all of Moldova, I have never seen such beautiful art." And there it was, amazingly, at a prison. Appreciation and gratitude is always profound in every project. Western Ethiopia, a dreary women's center, would become a place of healing and hope for desperately poor women. At the celebration of completion, everyone had tears. One woman put her hands on my shoulders, and with tears streaming down her face, she spoke passionately to me in her Oromo language. No one translated. They didn't have to. I understood. I went to this region of Ethiopia 3 times as I really enjoyed working with the friendly, happy people who have a passion for the poor. Traveling to a little kindergarten out in the scenic countryside, the road and dirt track were rather challenging, as it took us about an hour to go over 6 miles. Happy rooms at this remote location were a marvel. The children who walked long distances to go to the school were incredibly fun and engaging. I loved these beautiful children. They were spirited, and I laughed and I celebrated, especially with their enthusiastic singing. How could it be better? My happiness reached up to the stratosphere. Drawing is not one of my talents, and all Happy Room drawings are freehand. When I first went to Ethiopia, I was invited to paint a first-grade room at a school near the capital. My initial drawings were pathetic. But fortunately, the art teacher came to the rescue, and his murals were masterpieces. 4 years later, I returned, this time with artist friends. A recently built kindergarten needed happy rooms, and the art teacher commented, "You have really come a long way since you were here last." I certainly had. Every project has taught me something. At an orphanage in Cambodia, I directed hilarious, energetic high school students from Australia. And they created amazing Cambodian art. At a clinic at the Masai Mara in Kenya, I was wowed when the local chief came and wanted to paint. At a pediatric ward near Lake Victoria, student nurses and resident doctors showed me that happy rooms inspire busy people to make time to create joyful places. I learned I could even direct a project when children cried, even screamed, as they were given shots. A Romanian kindergarten was transformed, and many of the artists were young students who were happy and joyful to stay late into the night, and they painted murals of beautiful Romanian seasons. As happy rooms are life-giving, for me, happy rooms also bring beauty and possibilities to the artists and to the communities. Directing a happy room at a crisis centre for children in Papua New Guinea was an emotional experience. 24 children, ages 4 to 14, lived at the centre. They had been abandoned, traumatized, abused. But on our arrival, all the children were smiling and eager to paint a bright, happy room. It wasn't easy for my friend and myself to contain their enthusiasm. 2 of the smaller boys began to argue and to push each other. So I wrapped my arms around one of the little boys and I said, "We are painting a happy room here. And in this room, we are happy. No more problems." Located in the Coral Sea, the children were familiar with many different fish and coral species, and several children could draw and paint. And there was one little boy who could really draw. And I said to him, "Wow, you can draw so well." And he just blossomed, and he continued to do a lot more of the drawings. All the children, all 24, were involved in creating this magnificent mural. The director told them, "Whenever you feel sad, you are to come to the happy room." Papua New Guinea is famous for the world's most extraordinary birds, the birds of paradise, which are also called the birds of the gods. At a hospital in the rugged highlands, the project included 14 of the 39 species. The Highlanders toward the end were in awe and wonder. When an invitation came from China to direct happy rooms, I eagerly accepted. An artist friend and I would be based at the large university in Jiangxi province, one of China's poorest provinces. Our first room was at a kindergarten. My friend's creativity and artistic skill, along with assistance from students, was brilliant. Other university students painted the Chinese zodiac on the large wall surrounding the kindergarten. There was much laughter when some of them asked me to give them English names. I named one very creative student Picasso. I was invited to present a lecture at the university about happy rooms around the world, and the students were most engaging. One student commented, "We have never met anyone like you before, and I'm trying to come up with a name for you. I will call you Goddess." And then a surprise. He added, "Can I have a hug?" With cheering from over 100 students, we hugged. And later I learned that the men usually do not hug. For 5 days, we stayed at government headquarters in a country town. Each day, we were driven to a school out in the beautiful countryside. Local art teachers, university students who skipped classes created happy room wonders inside and outside the classrooms. My friend painted a 17-foot dragon. It was a masterpiece because the Chinese love dragons. As we were leaving, large strips of celebration firecrackers were set off, and yes, the Chinese love firecrackers. At a farewell dinner at the town where we stayed, we learned it was a very historical place, as Chairman Mao started training his recruits there. One of the government officials stated 80 years ago, a revolution began right here. And now, 80 years later, a new revolution is beginning. It will be happy rooms across China. I kept hearing, "Iris, you have planted a seed, and it will grow into a mighty tree that will spread across China." Before I left, it had already sprouted. While happy rooms were mushrooming internationally, I was thrilled to direct 4 projects with university students in my own community, Riverside, California. 2 of the Happy Room projects were at a home for homeless women and children. Inside of this room, where the children played, it became an animal fantasy land. And on the outside, it became a joyful playground wonder. Happy rooms around the world are not just about bright paint and color. Happy rooms are about giving joy, hope, peace, love, kindness, compassion. And also bringing celebration, laughter, joy, beauty to those people who least expect it. And I will share with you my favorite Mother Teresa quote when she said, "Do something beautiful for God."